For USCFootball.com, I'm Jack Smith, joined by Connor Morrissette for instant analysis from USC's Tuesday practice of the big one, Michigan week. Probably the litmus test week that USC fans circled before the season. See how the Trojans would fare going to the Big House, one of the most hostile environments in the sport. It's maybe not the Michigan team we expected preseason, but Connor, this is still a huge week for USC.
Big week for USC. Michigan, of course, making a quarterback change, going with Alex Orji, who's more of a running threat than Davis Warren, who's thrown 6 interceptions so far in 3 games. He's on the bench. Orji's in. Lincoln Riley talked a little bit about that today, which we'll get into. But yeah, you're right. USC certainly trending up. Michigan trending down after their big success last year, winning the national championship. Still a very tough spot to play. USC, though, all of a sudden 5.5 to 6-point favorites, depending on where you look. Who would have predicted that at the beginning of the season?
What were some of your main practice observations from what we got to see today out there?
Well, you did a great job behind the camera getting a great Zachariah Branch one-handed catch in extended warm-ups, I'll call it, because no one is covering Branch, but still he went up there, made the play with one hand. That was cool to see, and you can check it out on our YouTube. Injury updates, Eric Gentry's back, which is really encouraging. He missed some practice last week. Mason Cobb, who didn't play against Utah State, he is back fully and ready to go. Jalen Smith, who didn't play against Utah State, he's been back for a little bit now. That was great. The only guy we didn't see was on the 2-deep, Killian O'Connor, who we don't expect to see for a couple weeks, but Lincoln Riley said last week that he avoided a serious season-ending injury, so it sounds like USC's backup center, O'Connor, will be back at some point this season. The only other observation I had, Jack, was when we were watching the linebackers work, Elijah Newby made a true freshman mistake. He didn't attack a block the way Matt Entz wanted him to, and everyone kind of, the older guys, they all sort of knew that he messed up, and everyone was like, oh, and then Matt Entz talked to him, did it again, and it worked out really well. What was the big offseason emphasis? Teaching. That was cool to see, a nice moment of teaching from Matt Entz, and it's clear that they're doing a really good job teaching that defensive staff so far this season. The USC defense looks a heck of a lot better than it did a year ago.
Feels like most of the linebacker drills that we tend to see have 2 guys out there. Today, you had all 3 of them lining up next to each other, Mason Cobb and Eric Gentry on the outside with Easton Mascarenas-Arnold in the middle. I almost wonder if that's kind of an emphasis this week for a Michigan team that's probably going to play more at the line of scrimmage, quarterback run, runs up the middle and outside, and maybe less of a vertical passing game than Utah State or even LSU.
Great observation. We saw USC trot out those 3 linebackers a little bit against LSU, but great point. I wouldn't be surprised if we see that more against Michigan because of the rushing threat. In Danton Lynn's scheme, he wants those defensive linemen to attack the blocks and the linebackers to fit the gaps, and we've seen Eric Gentry have a lot of success doing that so far this season. I expect him to play a big role in stopping Alex Orji in that great Michigan running game. The big question, what kind of passer is Alex Orji? He really hasn't completed many of them as a quarterback at Michigan. If Michigan can get anything in the passing game, that'll make him a lot more difficult to defend, because USC, they're going to be ready for the run. It's all Michigan's really done this season. The passing game has not been good for them. If Orji is better as a passer, USC might be in trouble, but I don't know if I see it, Jack. Just the way they're set up and just how it's gone for them this season, USC will be ready for the run, and the passing game for Michigan will be gravy.
Yeah, Orji's attempted 7 passes in his collegiate career. I think he's 4 for 7, but 2 of those misses this year have been really big. One skipped at the feet of a wide receiver running a comeback. Wasn't really all that close. Last week he overthrew a post route. They were kind of conflicted about whether it was his fault or the wide receiver's fault, but it missed him by a good 5 yards. So I'm not sure it would have been the greatest throw anyway. And Orji's a guy that Lincoln Riley, who we got to talk to today, mentioned that he recruited when he was back at Oklahoma. But Orji's a guy that even in high school was barely a 50% completion percentage passer. So I'm just not sure the passing part of his game is going to be fully developed. And who knows, it could be by the end of the year, but this is his first start for Michigan. And I have a tough time believing that a Michigan blueprint for a win is him throwing for 250 yards. I feel like they might make it lucky if he throws for 100. And I feel like that's maybe the way they win, is if they have success and he's not throwing the ball a ton.
I agree, and you have to wonder, I'm sure he's confident, but he'd be a heck of a lot more confident, if he was the day one starter and he had the whole offseason to prepare for a USC team and prepare for a Big Ten schedule. He's now sort of been thrown into the fire, and that's a big talking point heading into this game. What is it going to look like with Alex Orji? That is certainly where it all starts, because USC's defenses look better. Like I said, the offense for USC, they're trending in the right direction. It's a formidable foe, of course, heading into the Big House, and now Michigan has this big question mark at quarterback. Let's see how it goes.
And Riley gave the expected answer that the Trojans are preparing for both Orji and Davis Warren. They're expecting to maybe see both of them play. I think Jack Tuttle, another third-string quarterback there, is finally healthy. If it's not going well for Michigan, he might even play. So I wasn't surprised to hear Riley say they're preparing for everybody. He did also mention Mason Cobb's healthy and that the Trojans don't have any other injuries. But on top of that, what did you notice from what Lincoln Riley had to say today?
Well, I asked him who is playing Alex Orji on the scout team because Jaden Maeva, out of the quarterbacks, he's the guy you can move around the most, but I don't know if you want to put your backup quarterback in the scout team. And I was just curious. Riley didn't give a name, but at first he joked that a quarterback from Muscle Shoe, Texas was going to be the scout team quarterback this week, which is where he's from, so that was a funny joke. I don't think he's doing any scout team quarterback work, Jack, but we're not really allowed to see much, so is it possible? Maybe. Probably not, though. He did say they feel good about some of the guys on the roster being able to fill that position and get the team ready. So maybe as the week goes on, we can get more information on that. That certainly stood out to me. And he said during the bye week they were ready for Alex Orji. They had started preparing for him already. Of course, you don't expect the full quarterback change unless you hear so. So that has changed their preparation a little bit. But they seem prepared. They sound ready to go. And on Trojans Live, Riley talked all about how they used the bye week to improve on special teams, but they also wanted to improve to do things that they know for the long haul of the season they're going to need to get better at. It's not necessarily a Michigan thing or a Wisconsin thing. There are things that they want to get better at that affect the rest of the schedule the whole way going from here, and they worked on that during the bye week too.
I asked Riley about Michigan and former Servite High School defensive lineman Mason Graham, probably a top 10 pick in the NFL draft if the first round were to start today, and he mentioned that he's one of those players that when he was hired at USC kind of inherited the recruiting process of. There wasn't a whole ton of relationship built there between Mason Graham and the former staff, so he tried to get him turned around, but mentioned that the timing was just a little bit too quick. Graham was already pretty committed to Michigan, but he's not surprised to see the kind of player he's become, considering they were excited about him in the recruiting process, but just they didn't have enough ground. They couldn't make up the ground quickly enough once he was finally hired. But I think it was interesting that he mentioned if the timing was different on the hire, maybe there's a different story in the recruitment of Mason Graham, but certainly a player Trojans have to look out for.
Absolutely. Graham, a real late bloomer out of Servite, like you mentioned, Jack, would have been great in a USC uniform, what he's been able to do at Michigan, and he's just a good example of, like, fans get all excited about the 4 and the 5-star guys, but sometimes if you get a 3-star guy in there who has the right attitude and has a high ceiling, good things will happen. And if USC in the future can recruit guys like Mason Graham, they'll be all right.
We also heard from 6 different offensive players today. Some of the big hitters, Miller Moss, Elijah Paige, Zachariah Branch, among others. What did you take away from some of the offensive playmakers today?
Everyone's very subdued. We asked them what they see from Michigan on film, and they say all 11 fly to the ball, and they have a good front. A lot of talk about Will Johnson, the good corner today. But overall, I was really focused today on asking the offensive linemen about their preparation and just what it's like when you go into a hostile environment. How much can you replicate that at practice? Because we hear they pump the crowd noise in at practice when we're waiting to be let in, so they're doing it a little bit, but like Riley talked about, eventually you just have to go in and do it. And so Elijah Page said we have to trust our preparation, and that makes a lot of sense to me. These guys have worked so hard all offseason. Riley also talked about how the reps in the summer and the reps all through fall camp and the reps here week in and week out in practice, that helps prepare you for a road environment. I don't know how much you can prepare. Like, they're not going to go down the street and play at a stadium that's full with crowd noise, so there's only so much you can do, but it sounds like they're on the right track. The offensive line is confident. To me, Jack, one of the ways USC can slip up in this game is if this inexperienced offensive line makes some mistakes. We saw the false start penalty against LSU that Alani Noah had right at the end. That didn't end up costing USC like it maybe looked like it would in the moment. Avoiding those penalties are going to be huge.
Yeah, a couple of the guys did bring up that LSU game as like a good first test. Lake McCree was asked if that was a test that prepared them for this week, and he said honestly he felt more of a test in his first ever collegiate game. He said he didn't ever believe that college games got as loud as that one did, so he's using that as kind of a motivation to be ready for this one, and that was a good test for him just in his first collegiate game. I thought that was pretty funny considering his first collegiate game definitely was not as loud as the one in Vegas, but I think he kind of took to heart in that first week he ever played just how loud it gets. But I think you're right, everyone kind of gave the same answers. They don't want to give out that bulletin board material like Colorado State did to Colorado last week. They're not going to say anything like that. They're all just saying, really good program. Lake McCree said it. They went out, they won the Natty last year, so they got to be a good team, and they kind of felt like what most everybody was saying.
Certainly. We heard from Zachariah Branch as well, and he was asked by you, Jack, about the drop touchdown that he had last week, and then there was a follow-up, and he just talked about how he was disappointed there was the bye week because the last 2 weeks it's really eaten at him, and he's been disappointed as a competitor. If that doesn't bother you, he said, then you're not playing the right sport. You're doing something wrong if that doesn't eat away at you. So he seemed frustrated. which makes a lot of sense, and he's desperate to right the wrong, so I wouldn't be surprised if he has a big game against Michigan. He seems to be even more locked in. Lincoln Riley said Monday that they worked on a lot of special team stuff during the bye week, so I asked Branch about that, and he gave the classic answer, we worked on everything. I was wondering if it was more return stuff, if it was more punting, kicking, field goals. It seemed like they went through it all. I'm curious to ask Riley on Thursday what specifically they worked on, because to me, Jack, besides that Michael Lance missed chip shot against LSU, I feel like the special teams has been pretty good.
Yeah, I mean, everyone's just punting it 10 yards shorter than normal so that Zachariah Branch can't return it. And I asked him about that, and he mentioned, I just got to wait for my moment. I'm doing my job. I got to control what I can control. I just wanted to see if he was frustrated that everybody really wants to make sure he can't do anything in the return game, because it does feel like these punters, instead of kicking it their max distance, are just kicking the wobbly ones that end up about 10 yards shorter than normal. Because if you kick it as far as you can, chances are he's returning it for even further than a wobbly punt would go anyway. So, but he kind of gave the right answers. He was asked about the kickoff return that he almost housed against LSU, and I followed it up with the drop, and those were the two things. He's like, man, just really eating away at me. He said, I should have just cut to the outside, trusted my speed on that kick return, should have just caught the football for the touchdown. And he was asked if he has that kind of mentality where he hyper-focuses, hyper-fixates on the mistakes he makes, and he said that's kind of when he gave the answer about you got to do that to be a good football player, and if you're not doing that, then why are you playing the sport? So definitely feels like USC's focused, not going to give out any of these big, bold statements that Michigan can put on the bulletin board. They know that the Wolverines are motivated enough, but it does feel like this USC team is ready and focused to go in there. It's also the Big Ten opener, and the guys were asked about that. They just weren't giving out any of those great one-liners that people in the media like to hear.
I was fishing for him. I asked Zachariah Branch on a different topic, like, are we going to see you run down the field more? I think against LSU, out of your 56 receiving yards, 55 of them were after the catch. You were catching everything on the line of scrimmage. I know I'm not the only one. USC fans want to see him go down the field and make plays as well. He said that's a good question for Coach Riley. I asked Miller Moss what it means to be the quarterback to usher USC into the Big Ten. He says, not really thinking about that too much, and maybe if I took a step back, I would be more. That could have been a good storyline, but he's clearly focused week to week like they all are. And yeah, the media training with this USC football team, it's clear that whoever's in charge, Katie Ryan, the SID, is doing a great job, and Lincoln Riley too. He gets those talking points down. We're ready for Michigan, no bulletin board material, and we saw it worked. LSU gave USC some bulletin board material, and Lincoln Riley kind of not threw it back in their face, but he said, we were confident, we just didn't talk about it to the media. That seems to be a big game plan for USC this season, and through 2 weeks, it certainly paid off.
Yeah, LSU couldn't run the ball against Nicholls State, so I think they rushed for less yards per carry against Nicholls State than they did against USC. So I agree. You don't want to be one of those teams that's eating crow after the week. Yeah. Quarterback going up to another player and basically getting shunned because all he did was talk crap all week about Instagram followers or running the football. USC doesn't want to be that team this year. So once they do, we'll be there. If they do, we'll bring it to you guys. But that's basically all we've got for you today. Is there anything that you want to talk about before we wrap it up?
No, that can end it. I'm excited. Last year was awesome. This is my second year on the beat. Going to Notre Dame this year, the Michigan game's the one I'm looking forward to the most. I'm sure you're excited too, Jack, to head to the Big House. Really, really excited for this game. And, I mean, you grew up watching games in Michigan. It's going to be real fun to be there.
Yeah. We'll be back with you guys tomorrow as USC will practice again on Wednesday. But he's Connor Morrissette. I'm Jack Smith. Make sure you're checking out USCfootball.com for more.